All right, we're back for another Free Agent Fridays, and it's been probably 2 months almost since the last one with the holidays, and got a lot of interest. So I'm gonna get it back going. And today, my first guest is Dakota Zientek. How's it going, Dakota?
It's going well. How are you doing?
Doing real good. Doing real good. What's the jersey behind you? I see there, number 10.
It's Mitchell Trubisky. I was a believer in the beginning, and then I just haven't really bought jerseys, but I had to rep the Bears somehow. So it was kind of my
Nice.
only choice there.
Hey, you know what? Even the ones that aren't doing good need some support. So
Exactly. He brought some memories, both good and bad. But I'm just here for the process now.
Well, let's start off with just kind of walking through your experience. Where are you from? Where'd you go to school? And kind of your path up till now.
Yeah, I was born in the northwest suburb of Chicago, and so I went to junior college first. I went to McHenry County College, and I just kind of I was kind of into, I kind of had some things that I was thinking about doing, but it wasn't really until I went to community college that I learned that I had an interest in writing, and through positive affirmation from my professors and stuff, I learned that I was good at this thing. And so I really got into that, like the communication side of business. And I did my 2 years there, and then graduated and transferred to the University of Iowa, where I ended up picking up a second major, double majored in journalism and mass communication, and then sport and recreation management. So I was kind of I was looking into sports communication. Now I kind of switched that into kind of the social media aspect of sports. I've kind of been getting more involved with that just because of, less fans in the stands means more fans on their phones. So, they're looking at the social media, they're engaging with it more. And so I think now is the time for teams to do that. But that's kind of my little, I guess I didn't go into the tangent, thankfully. But yeah, at the University of Iowa, I interned with the Cedar Rapids River Kings. They're from the IFL, and I was doing social media with them. And the first year we were doing it, we actually won the 2019 best social media and website. So that was kind of the first thing where I was like, okay, this is awesome. This is really fun. We're doing well. And I mean, the team went, I think, 1-11, but we were still able to, bring the fans in and really kind of create an environment that they were, interested in. But graduated in May from the University of Iowa. I wish I would have spent all 4 years there. It was an awesome school. And then, COVID hit. I was furloughed from the Cedar Rapids River Kings. I was given a second year there, but since the IFL suspended its duties, we kind of were just like, well, there's not really much for us to do this season. So unfortunately lost that position. And so I was kind of just left with this, what do I do with my time? I'm not the type of person to just enjoy sitting around and, not being productive. So I was brought on to a team, Sports as a Job. I did a similar call to this with their head of, operations, Colby Castillo. And he was just like, I was writing for them a little bit, but I told him, I was like, I really want to get into podcasting. I think that that's something that people are gravitating towards, especially with, being in their houses. And so I was just like, hey, what if we do another podcast? His is focused on people that are kind of, they've spent time in the industry, so they have, more of the seasoned advice, as I like to call it. And so I was like, well, what if we do one that's short, for people that our cap is 4 years, so they're within their first 4 years in the industry. I think that especially now they're learning a lot, and a lot of good advice to give to people that are, college aged or, entry level. But yeah, I've been kind of doing that with my co-host Kate. Her and I have kind of been doing the whole podcast thing. That's been really fun and teaching me a whole bunch about social media again. I do the social media for them, so I've been getting more real life advice or real life experience while not being employed by someone. I'm still kind of getting that experience, and just being a sponge with anything, just taking anything in. And so in in long form, that's kind of what my journey's been, from college till up to now.
So why sports? Like what is it about, being in the sports world?
Well, first off, like I this is kind of the worst, and the worst reason to be interested in sports, but I love sports. If you can see my whole room, it's just cluttered with sports memorabilia, and I think the thing that it is for me is like the experience with sports. You go to for me, if I go to a Bears game, like even if like it doesn't really matter the product on the field so much, like the experience of just going to Soldier Field, and watching a football game with people that are obviously somewhat special to me. And I think just having that experience, like you don't get that from other industries. Like I could want to sell a toothbrush as bad as I want, but like not much about that is as interesting as sports to me. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, like playing sports, obviously. And I feel like that's a lot of the people in this industry at least played it at one point. And I played it for 10 years ish, I think 12. And just got hit with that concussion stuff. So I wasn't able to play anymore. But I'm like, I still want to be involved with sports because like it's just such a, there's such a pull like to the community itself, where it's just hard to replicate in other industries.
Yeah, and I really like the competitive side of it. I mean, because
yeah, exactly.
Being a former athlete, I am just hyper competitive, and not in a bad way, but I mean, I want like you guys had that award for social media for the team. Like those are the kind of things. Since I can't go out on the field anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, hey, how can I be the best at whatever I do? And that's pretty cool. What would you say is your dream job?
That's a tough one because I feel like it changes like each 4 months. But for me, I think that at the root of it, it's something related to communication or relations with some sort of outlet, whether it be the fans, whether it be media outlets themselves, whether it be the team. I think that I'm someone that likes to bring people together, and give them something, like give them an experience that they won't forget, or give them an experience they want to share with someone. And so, at the moment right now, I would say the biggest way to impact, with that in mind, would be social media. Being involved with social media, I think at this current moment is like the way to get the most experience in sports, just because you're doing a whole bunch of different things, and your main goal is to create an experience virtually that someone thinks is positive enough in a way to share with someone. And that's really important to me. I learned about the art of storytelling at the University of Iowa, and kind of ever since then, I've had this passion to tell stories in different ways, whether it be a simple 8-word tweet that somehow tells a story that someone wants to relay to someone, or long form. So I'm not sure if there's a dream job. I think it changes with how the industry changes. So, but at the root of it, I just want to share experiences with people that that is memorable to them.
And don't worry about it. I'm 42 and mine changes too. So
yeah, exactly. That was something I learned from someone. I was like, all right, that's true.
So no big deal. How about this? What's like the biggest skill or asset that you'll bring to a new position?
Well, I think the first one, I would have two if that's okay. But the first one is that, I love to learn. And, I think that's applicable into the industry because it is an industry that doesn't really stay stagnant. It kind of changes with how the world changes, and the world changes really quickly and oddly and in ways we haven't seen before. So I think that's the first thing that's really important. That is a skill that I bring, just because I love to learn from other people, and I love to kind of execute what I've learned and see how people react to it. And then the second thing I would say is that, kind of branched off what I said with my dream job is that I love to tell people stories in different ways. Within the media realm of sports, I think that's kind of where I want to be. I feel like that's an important asset because that's kind of what they're trying to do. They're trying to tell stories that are bigger than what they look like on the surface. So I think those would be my two kind of main qualities that I would be able to bring to a team or organization.
What do you think is the biggest area you need to improve on?
I would say that the biggest way I need to improve is to give myself a break. I wouldn't say I'm hard on myself, but I'm just, being a former athlete. I think all former athletes are somewhat critical of themselves and, whether that be positively or negatively. I would say that I just need to give myself a little bit of time to kind of enjoy life and, not be so attached to perfection. That's kind of a vague term and a vague thing where people are like, being a perfectionist is my biggest weakness. But I would say that kind of, especially with going into social media, like that's not really a job that has hours from 9 to 5. Like you kind of just have to be on it.
7.
Yeah, exactly. Like you kind of just have to be on it. But at the same time, you need to give yourself time to, be a human and not your role.
Yeah.
The role shouldn't define, everything you do in your life. Rather, you should just be really good at it when you need to be, like when you're working at it. So yeah, I would say that that's definitely what I've learned, especially with last year. There wasn't really a schedule, so if I wanted to work all day, I could, and so just not doing that is kind of my weakness, which in some ways could be a positive for companies.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that separation is a tough thing. I mean, I know as a business owner and team owner, team executive, sometimes that has been a big challenge for me too. And just kind of, for me, it was trusting other people, and so I got past that. It made it a lot easier. But yeah, I mean, sometimes you gotta do what you got to do.
Yeah.
But how would you define success?
That's a fun question. I remember I was asked this like my freshman year of college, and I just had no idea. I'm like, having things that you want. Yeah, but I don't know. I think it's kind of a definition that doesn't have a definition in a way. Like success for one person is something that's nowhere near success for someone else. But for me, I would say success is just like the kind of common phrase is if you don't, if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. But I feel like if that is how you approach your job, and if that is how you feel in your job, like you truly are happy and you truly are successful because you found a way to execute your passion, gain the income you might need to survive, and do it like happily and do it, not. There are going to be days where you wake up and don't want to go to work, obviously. But I would say if there's more days that aren't like that, you're successful.
Yeah. Well, I like that question because there's really no wrong answer, but
yeah,
it kind of lets you get an idea of where the value is, in different people. It's all different, which is cool. So, so you're looking for kind of, PR, communication, social media position, open to relocation?
Yeah, I'm as long as my dog can come with me, I'm willing to go anywhere. I have a 1-year-old
cat.
What's that?
Do you have a cat too, or was that your?
No, that was her. That was my dog. She's
a cat like behind you.
Yeah, she's like a year-old sheepdog, Australian Shepherd mix. She's hilarious, funniest dog in the world. But her name's Staley, like the Bears. So if the Bears want to know how loyal of a fan I am, I named my dog Staley. And she's a girl, so people commonly call him or her him, but it's whatever.
Hey, whatever,
Yeah, it's easy to go along with him. Like, yeah, him.
You're taking them with you.
Exactly.
All right, I like to end with a fun personal fact.
Well, the one I commonly go with, just because it's kind of easy, is that I played football at Soldier Field during halftime of a Bears game.
Nice.
That was, super cool. I'm sure not many people were actually watching it. That was when they were probably using the bathroom and getting, beer or whatever. But it was still, I was probably, younger than 10. So that was probably the coolest thing I've ever done. But I mean, other than that, I think one of the cooler things is that I'm really into music. So I recently bought a turntable and like a bunch of vinyls. So my dog and I will just kind of hang out, listen to vinyls, usually watch football of some sort, and kind of that's my way to kind of disconnect from working and all.
How big's the vinyl collection?
It's not crazy big. It's probably like 40. So it's a nice collection. Usually my dad and I will, when I came back from school, it was kind of nicer at school because there was a record shop like 3 minutes from my house. But it was also not great because I spent more money than I should have on vinyls. But yeah, my dad and I will go to the vinyl shops or kind of thrift shops to find some because he's kind of a big music guy too. So he'll kind of relive his childhood through me with the vinyls. That was what he was doing. But yeah, that's kind of my cool kind of two-parter that I snuck in.
What kind of music? Is it a broad range or is it a specific type?
It's kind of it's not a super broad range. There's probably a few genres in like definitely like older rock, like anywhere between the 50s to like now really, but mainly from the 70s to 80s maybe. That's kind of where I would say 60s to 80s. That would be where I kind of lay in. But I'm really into anything, like even reggae or yeah, pretty much anything.
I remember one Christmas when I was young, really young, I got like, a stereo, and, back then they had the record player on top. So I remember getting like a Michael Jackson.
Oh, there you go.
Record. So
yeah, that's on my list. I have a few of his albums on my list.
Yeah, my kids probably don't know what that is. I need to
break it out.
Yeah. Well, no, man. Hey, thanks for joining me. It was great chatting with you.
Yeah.
Good luck. Keep us updated too on the podcast so we can share that for you.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think the podcast is a good way to kind of just connect with people. You know how relationships will build, and just me starting this podcast, I've made some great relationships, and it's been a fun time. And I'm not good at it, but it's fun.
Hey, that's subjective. I think as long as you're like, hey, I'm killing it, that's all that matters.
Yep. Well, thanks again, and we'll keep it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again. I really appreciate it.